Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Forgotten Hockey Players of Broadway, a nostalgic look back at our favorite Rangers from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm Tom Browning, along with my co-host Rob Berger. We can be heard on Google Play, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and of course, our website at gotommyboyproductions.libsyn.com. That's gotommyboyproductions.libsyn.com. Please check it out. You can capture all of our episodes on our webpage. You can contact us by just clicking on the contact bar. You can leave a message. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear about the players that you would like for us to profile. Love to hear about maybe some of the seasons other than the 60s, 70s, and 80s that really made an impact on you as a fan. Again, we will be going off the menu every once in a while. We'll be talking about the current day New York Rangers, the state of the franchise, and again, we love to talk about previous playoff games, impactful trades that took place in New York Rangers history. So wherever you listen to us, please hit subscribe. It's free. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Tom Browning and Rob Berger. Welcome to another episode of the Forgotten Hockey Players of Broadway. I'm Tom Browning, along with my great friend and co-host, Rob Berger. Rob, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great, Tom. Countdown is on to hockey.
Countdown is here. We're going to talk a little preseason hockey, a little preview of the New York Rangers and whatever else is going on in the National Hockey League. But it looks like we finally found a quarterback here in New York. Maybe, I guess that's the wrong sport. But I'm sure there are a lot of Ranger fans who are Giant fans that are very excited to have a guy like Daniel Jones assert himself and have the game he did the other day. And when I had a chance to reflect on what Jones did for the Giants, I couldn't help but start thinking about a possible transition with the Rangers with their goaltending, with two studs right now, the Bulgarian beast in Georgiev, and then you got Igor Shesterkin from the Soviet Union, the highly touted young Ranger goaltender. And, you can't help but wonder, what is going on in the minds of Jeff Gorton and Quinn. And, could this be the year that those two young guys supplant Lundqvist, and I just thought the timing was pretty interesting. So maybe we can, talk about that a little bit here in discussing the preseason. But what are your initial thoughts?
Every time Daniel Jones completed a pass, I knew all you were thinking about was Georgiev and Lundqvist.
The Bulgarian beast. I love the kid. I think, it's funny. The traits that Daniel Jones showed the other day, the mental toughness, the moxie, I see that with Georgiev. He's a tough-minded. He's got swag. He's very confident. He performed. He produced, and I think he's a money goaltender. I think he will be very tough in the clutch, and I think he's already just demonstrated that the few times he's had a chance to play. And I'm not sure about Igor. I'm not sure about what his skill set is. He looks very athletic to me, and he's got Benny Allaire, a great goaltending coach, who is working with all three of them, obviously, and maybe even Adam Huska, who looks pretty decent too. He's kind of the forgotten man in the goaltending hierarchy, but I don't know. I like Georgiev. I like him a lot, and I would like to see him. I think he's deserving of the number one goaltender spot. I really do. I think, or at least sharing the duties with Lundqvist, at least in the beginning. And I think Igor needs to get some experience with North American hockey down the AHL. So, those are my initial thoughts on the goaltending situation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Lundqvist is still the number one goalie, but a split time works out best. I don't want to see Lundqvist playing more than 50 games this season. Keep him on top of his game. Never playing, should never be doing back-to-back, and probably never should be doing 3 games in a row, no matter how much time between the games.
So was 50 games based on his salary or on his production on the ice and where he is with his game right now at 37, 38 years old?
I think it's based on his production, not contract. Although I'm sure the Dolans don't want to see someone making $8.5 million not starting.
Yeah, but I think the Dolans also want to make the playoffs. All the money that comes into the coffers, even if they play one round. I mean, James Dolan's been saying the right things. He wants to do it right. He wants to be patient. And if that's the case, why not start Georgiev? I mean, to me, I don't think Lundqvist has earned it based on production. I think you and I have a little bit of a difference of opinion there. He has 2 years in a row now. He has had a very tough second half of the season, almost a precipitous drop from the first half to the second half, 2 years in a row now. And I think, I think it's fair if you want to start the season, going, splitting the games. I don't know about a 50-30 split, though. I think Georgiev has warranted more time than that. But I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Lundqvist is 4 straight years of declining numbers, with the exception of the fact that he led the league in 2016 and shot, because he saw so many shots.
Yeah.
So he led the league in saves. That Rangers defense was very porous. But since then, you're right. He's gone from a 2.25 in 2015 to over 3 last year. He's ostensibly the worst starting goaltender in hockey last year, for number one goaltenders, if you will. I think with Lundqvist, you ride him if he's playing well, and he's obviously going to start this season. There's no doubt about that. And you have to see how he plays, because if he plays well, you can't take him out. So you just watch him. Just keep an eye on him. They're not moving him under any circumstances. So, for $8.5 million, you might as well see if he could play well before you jump to Georgiev.
Yeah, well, I think he'll have his chance if they go, one game each. It's funny how branding and political correctness has just infiltrated professional sports today. To me, that was probably the biggest reason why John Mara didn't move away from Eli the last several years, and why maybe Gorton and Dolan will not move away from Lundqvist is that, you attach yourself as an organization to a brand, whether it be the Manning brand or the Lundqvist brand. The political correctness that has infiltrated sports today versus production, to me, is just it's fascinating how it's evolved since I was a kid growing up. And I can't help but think that is what's driving this thing, because like you said, you're going to see if Lundqvist holds up his end of the bargain before you make a switch. Well, he hasn't done that. Like you said, last year was the worst goal in the National Hockey League. I don't know why you didn't listen to me when I've been telling you that the last couple of years. But anyway, the guy has not produced in the second half the last several years. So what more do you have to see? The kid, Georgiev, has been playing well. I think they need to start off on an even track. Now, this is a very idealistic point of view I'm taking, obviously, because it doesn't reflect the political correctness or the branding that I'm talking about. But, I really don't think this Lundqvist has earned any right to start playing more games based on his productivity, his performance. I really don't. And, I think you really risk losing the locker room with a confidence. I mean, look at the way Danny Dimes elevated all the players around him the other day. When you have a leadership position like quarterback or goaltender, when you have somebody who plays out of their mind, the whole team becomes energized, And I think the Rangers did that with Georgiev last year. I saw they were stale with Lundqvist in net, and they had an energy and a pace when Georgiev was in net. And I think if they want to get off to a good start this year, if they want to instill some confidence in the kids, I think Georgiev has got to play half the games. But you know what? I think you're right. I think they're going to do what you are suggesting. I think Lundqvist will probably play 2 games for every 3 in the beginning of the season. They're going to see how he performs and then make a decision accordingly. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
I don't know why you think it's political correctness that he plays. I think it's actually the opposite of that. I think it's loyalty. Do you think there was a time that teams weren't loyal outside of the NFL? Because the NFL has never been loyal to anybody, but outside in the NHL where teams weren't loyal to players that have been there forever.
Well, how about Mickey Mantle taking a pay cut after he won the MVP in '54? I mean, of course, Babe Ruth. I mean, it's littered.
That's players, though. That's not teams.
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about political correctness to people like Eli Manning, who they won 2 champions. He won 2 Super Bowls, right? Or they say he won, but the team won 2 Super Bowls. And despite very average performance the last 7 years, there was no thought of even thinking about getting in another quarterback, drafting another quarterback, despite the mediocre, less than stellar performance. And Lundqvist, last year, the last couple of years, his precipitous decline, the second part of the year, getting up there in age. I mean, there's a lot of coaches, a lot of organizations, winning organizations, that would never stand for a decline like that without being proactive, building a bench, and getting the next person in there. And that's what I mean by political correctness, not from a sense where you see it in politics today, but from a sense of being tied to a brand at the expense of the performance on the ice or on the field. The contract that's in place. We got to play this guy. That, to me, that's political correctness as it relates to sports. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that's just my opinion.
The brand, there's two sides to every organization. There's the hockey side and the business side. And from a Rangers perspective, that brand is so important. And I would have to think, that in meetings that take place, they make a decision, similar to the Eli situation, what's better for the brand? Will we anger people? If we trade Eli and we still stink, does that hurt us more than keeping him and stinking? With the same as Henrik. If the Rangers start the season off cold, they're under 500 entering Thanksgiving break or into the Thanksgiving holiday, does trading the Rangers make them any better to help the brand? Or will less people be going to games in March? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how many people, when I go to Ranger games, he's still getting a huge ovation. Probably the loudest one of anybody on the team.
Yeah, well, it's the image. He's got a great image, right? He, good-looking guy, Mr. GQ, always represented the organization very well on and off the ice. He's got that image, right? The Lundqvist jerseys, King Henrik, all those things play into that Ranger brand, where if you got to go with somebody who, like a Georgiev, who's really an unknown, he doesn't speak the language, well, how is he going to sell the product on the ice? But I think the Ranger fans bought into that letter that was sent out 2 years ago in February that was very transparent. And they said, we are going to build this thing the right way. So I think the Ranger fans are ready to move on. The real hardcore fans that want to see production on the ice, that aren't too concerned about, the Henrik Lundqvist night 5 years from now or 3 years from now, or who want to see a Stanley Cup contender with good young talent, they're ready to move on. Even guys like me have been following the team since the early 60s. They're ready to move on. Guys, I think of my generation, Rob, are more concerned with the jersey than the name behind, in the back of the jersey. They want to see team, because we've seen players get traded. We've seen the Bobby Mercers get traded. We've seen them, the Brad Parks and the Jean Rattels get traded. We've seen big name players get moved. I think it's time, and maybe even practical, that if they can get something for Lundqvist to help this build, to help, facilitate this build, I think it may not be a bad idea. Although, like you said, he's got an $8 million contract. Who's going to take that on? Maybe 2 years ago would have been better. I've been saying they should, be looking at moving him 2 or 3 years ago to get pieces. But because the Rangers have not been good enough to contend for a while now, and people who follow the game really should have been able to see that. And was he a luxury that they really couldn't afford? So I don't know. You make some good points. I think the Rangers have, though. I think they've kind of decided they want to go all in on this thing. Although John Davidson makes me a little bit nervous, because I think he's trying to play both ends. I think he's trying to, and I don't think you can do that. I think he's trying to go half pregnant on this thing by making the Panarin trade and trying to do well make the playoffs. I'm not so sure that he is totally into this rebuild as maybe Gorton was before Davidson was named president. So that remains to be seen. I think John Davidson as the president is good for Lundqvist. I think he'd be more apt to hold on to Lundqvist than Gorton was running the show.
This might be an exercise in futility. Yeah. Nobody's trading for that contract.
No. Unless someone feels that they are just a hot Lundqvist away from winning the Cup. But we won't know that until, February or March. But I think the chances would have been better last year or the year before as opposed to this year. Because Is Lundqvist going to be better in the second half this year than he was last year or the year before? As an older player, I don't think so. But
yeah, I mean, you need someone to manage his playing time correctly. If that's even a case. Listen, the Kings are in the same situation with Jonathan Quick. You have another goaltender with a huge contract, with a kid ready to play. The Kings are at an advantage. The perfect fit for Lundqvist might be in Uniondale.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. But although I don't think that would ever happen.
No.
I don't think that would ever happen. It would take too much courage to make a move like that. Who are some of the players that you've been impressed with so far in camp with the Rangers so thus far? It's early. We've only played 3 or 4 preseason games, but anyone that stands out?
I hate to get excited about training camp.
Yeah.
Pretty much in any sport, because you never know how much these guys are giving it. I'm excited to see this line with Kreider and Cheadle and Kakko play together. That's going to be the exciting line. That won't be the number one line, and they'll definitely, Kaapo Kakko is definitely going to be protected out there. But I'm excited to see a fast Rangers line. Finally a fast speed line for the Rangers.
Yeah, Kakko, I think he's done okay. He hasn't. When you look at compared to Hughes, who's got first stars in 2 games, the kid is a beast. He really is. Watch him play in those Devil games. I never really appreciated him, I guess, as much as I should have watching the international stuff, because I really didn't pay a lot of attention to the international stuff like you have and my son has. But man, I'll tell you, that kid. I wish he was on our side of the Hudson, but the kid is a beast, and I think Kakko's got that same opportunity. He hasn't performed as well as Hughes thus far in preseason. I don't think he's gotten as much ice time. But the thing that stands out to me, there's 2 players that really, to me, have stood out. Ryan Lindgren, one of them, on defense. The kid brings it every single shift, every single night, and I think he is an element that the Rangers sorely need. I look at the Ranger team in the preseason. They are still a finesse team. They are still a team with lacking in a lot of grit and a lot of size. And I think Kakko can bring that in 3 or 4 years when he fills out. He's only 18 right now, but when he's 21, 22, I think he could be a dominant force. I think he could be a protector of his teammates. But right now, Rob, I tell you, I saw the way the Flyers manhandled. I saw the way the Devils physically manhandled the Rangers. And David Quinn likes black and blue. He's got that, growing up in Boston, he's got that Bruin mentality, that tough, hard-nosed, two-way hockey. He wants to bring that to the Rangers, but they just don't. I mean, you see Michael Haley playing a lot in the preseason. I know that's just to protect the kids, but what the heck is he doing there? I mean, he's not going to be getting any ice time once the season starts. I'm really concerned that this Ranger team really lacks physicality, but Ryan Lindgren is impressed. And this kid, I think, is not ready yet. But I think in a year or 2, he's going to surprise a lot of people, and that's Joey Keane, another left-handed defenseman. He was a late-round draft pick. I think he was like 5th or 6th round, maybe even the 7th round. But he has really progressed. He's done very well. He's got a lot of skill, got good size, and I think a year or 2 from now, he is going to be, if there's room on defense, I think he is somebody that has really impressed me in the few games I've seen thus far. I think Howden's had a good camp. I like his 2-way game. Hedl, I think, has to pick it up. I think Quinn's a little bit concerned about Hedl right now. I think Hedl may need some more time in the AHL. I think Kravtsov definitely needs time in the AHL. May not even hurt. I think Kakko's going to start, but I think it wouldn't hurt him to spend some time there as well. What are your thoughts? Anybody else that stands out?
Well, going back to, I really like Lindgren and Keane. They're not going to start the year with the team, though. No,
Keane's not, and neither is Lindgren, probably. Although I think Lindgren deserves to.
They're both waivers exempt, so it doesn't make any. So just from a business side, you send them down.
Right.
But I think the Rangers are. I hear what you're saying about Hedl, but they are counting on him to play minutes this year. I don't disagree that he could use some time, but he's going to see. They're going to he's going to be playing on the power play, and they're going to expect him to see. We're talking 17, 18 minutes a night, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think regardless of the camp he's having, I think they'll thrust him in there. Concern I have on defense is, I'm not a big Shea guy, and I know that Shea and Trouba are close friends, and they're paired up together. But again, I'm not so Shea, who's had two declining years in a row, has earned that spot. Although, he's making the big money. He already got a bigger contract. He's tight with Trouba. But I think when you look at Shea and Stahl, especially Stahl, Ryan Lindgren, I think, has earned the right to be in there. It's too bad that they paid Stahl all that much money, because I think Lindgren teamed up with D'Angelo, and you have Fox and Hajic together. And if you're going to keep Shea and Trouba together, those should be the three pairings of defense. And you might keep Smith as a sixth defenseman, or you can keep Stahl as a sixth or seventh defenseman. But I think Lindgren's earned the right. You're right. He'll probably be sent down for business reasons. But I think that gives you a stronger defense. And he's more physical than Stahl. He's a lot more physical than Stahl. Ryan Strome is another player who's really, to me, has finally found the light switch. I think last year in the second half of the year, he was the Rangers' best forward, without a doubt. And he brings a grit to even though he's not a very big guy, he's a hard-nosed player, skilled. I think they need to find a spot for him, somewhere, if not at center, then somewhere on the wing. Those are some of the things that stand out to me. Anderson, I don't know. I don't know if the kid's a bust or not. I know he's gained some muscle over the summer. He's dedicated himself to conditioning, but where was that 2 years ago when he was drafted number one? What does it take to get yourself in tip-top condition when you're, number 7 selection in the first round, and you're the captain of the Swedish, national team, and you're playing in the National Hockey League? Why does it take you 2 years to get in the best shape that you can possibly get into? I don't get that, but I don't know. Kreider, is Kreider going to bring it this year? Is he going to bring it every shift, every game? Is he going to be that physical force that he's got the capability of being? I don't know. These are some big question marks for the New York Rangers. They got talent. They got young talent. I'm not so sure how many of the youngsters, though, are really ready to jump right in yet.
I would say most of them aren't. But listen, that Trouba move looks even better now. Winnipeg lost so much on defense. They really could use Trouba. So,
wow.
I know with what's going on with Bufflin, who might retire, who knows what's going to happen with him. And to get, Trouba's only 25. He's a legit top defenseman. He'll be good on that top pairing. He'll also play on the top power play unit. That's the excitement for me. That's the player I want to see the most this year, even more than Panarin, is Jacob Trouba. Having a solid defenseman that's not Mark Stahl.
Yeah.
To be the backbone for this team, to play 23 minutes a night, to back the Rangers are definitely better than they were last year. That's the good news.
They're more talented.
Yes. This is a team that should win more games, that should be a playoff team. It's just, is it going to be frustrating to linger at that in that bottom wild card spot and battle all year round instead of going for a top pick when you have these huge salaries that you can't get rid of?
Yeah, I just hope they're not a playoff team based on inserting a lot of veterans in there or making trades at the deadline because they get seduced. If it's the kids organically producing after what might be a slow start, that's fine. A la the Islanders from the early 70s when the youngsters turned it on and turned it around very quickly without infusing a lot of veterans into the lineup. That'd be one thing. That's my only concern with Davidson, is he might become seduced into making moves at the expense of some of these young players just to get into the playoffs, and which would stunt maybe the development of some of these young kids or hurt their draft position next year. I still think the Rangers could use another couple of early round draft picks to really keep on keeping on what they started. I look at Trouba. I think of Ryan Lindgren and Trouba being an ideal pairing. Trouba strong right-handed defenseman with some offensive game. Lindgren, a tough, hard-nosed left-handed defenseman. And then you got some talented offensive defensemen and D'Angelo and maybe Hajic coming in and playing. And you got Adam Fox, and even Rykov, the other defenseman. They've got some talent there. I just hate to see some of these veterans just because these contracts. But I guess they have no room. I guess they couldn't afford to let Stahl go, right? Their salary cap situation is such that they would take a a mega hit if they were to buy him out or not play him.
Yeah, considering they're still paying Girardi, Spooner, and Shattenkirk with buyouts. I can't imagine they're going to buy him out too.
No, they don't have that luxury this year.
Get through it 2 more seasons of stall. They should be able to do it. You got Shea and Brendan Smith. How much are they going to contribute? Brendan Smith.
Yeah, that's
even worse. I think. If he's not even slated to start the year, Hadjic and Fox and D'Angelo. I don't even see where Brendan Smith fits in this whole nonsense.
Boy, he fooled me. After he came off of that great second half of the year several years ago, he really fooled me. I was all in on signing him to a contract because he brought that physical play and had some offensive game to him. And I know Quinn liked him as a college player. I think he competed against Quinn's team in college. And, boy, something happened with him. I don't know what it was, confidence or something, but he got into Vigneault's doghouse, and he's not been able to get out of it with Quinn. And, yeah, I thought that he would be a lot more productive for the Rangers, that's for sure. Center ice is going to be interesting with the Rangers. They got 5 or 6 center icemen, and one of the things the Rangers do a lot is they play the center iceman on the wing. I like Strome at center ice. I like Howden, but is Howden going to be relegated to the 4th line because you feel like you have to play Anderson, Hedl, and Zibanejad obviously is the number 1. You got to give Hedl a shot at number 2. I think Howden has earned number 3. I think Anderson really should compete for number 3, but it looks like they're giving the number 3 for Anderson to see if he can sink or swim, which means Strome would probably be playing a wing or Howden would be playing a wing, which I'm not sure they're cut out to do. Yeah, and then you got the Nemestikov, and you got Fost. I think Jesper Fost, to me, is a guy that is expendable. I know people rave about his defensive game, but, I think when you're in a situation like the Rangers, I don't know if he's a luxury. I think he might be more apt on a Stanley Cup contending team who may need a shutdown right winger. I don't know if you want to give up a spot for a young kid with a player like Jesper Fost in there. I mean, he's got no offensive game to him at all. No skill set, really. He's a tough, hard-nosed defensive player, undersized. But do you really want him taking up one of your spots when you got all these talented youngsters to get playing time? I don't know. But some reason, there's a real halo effect with Jesper Fost, with every coach, within the Rangers organization. I don't know what your thoughts are on Fost, but I don't know.
He'll play on the 4th line, but really it's because of his defense. Even though, last year, he did take a small step back. However, if you want to talk about more of those kind of stats like Horsey, the team did play better with him on the ice last year. And they, and both offensively and defensively, they were getting more shots with him on the ice. They were allowing less shots with him on the ice. And he's a guy that, over half the time, for his entire career, he spent more time on the defensive side of the ice than the offensive side of the puck. He's not a great possession guy, but he is, he's a shutdown defenseman, winger.
No, he is. And he does get a lot of scoring chances. That's the thing with him. He does create, because of his tenacity, he does create a lot of scoring chances for himself. But the kid cannot finish. The kid really, Bill Chowick. I don't know if you remember Bill Chowick. He used to be a color man for the Rangers with Jim Gordon as the announcer back in the 60s, 70s, maybe even early 80s before Sam Rosen came on. He was a referee. He was a Hall of Famer. Actually grew up in Brooklyn, lived in Long Island. The Rangers had a speedy winger by the name of Gene Carr. They made a big trade for Gene Carr because the Rangers at the time needed some speed. So I think it was with the St. Louis Blues at the time. I think he played for the Kings for a little bit too in his career. But Gene Carr was one of the fastest players in the league, and he had numerous scoring chances, but he could never finish. And Bill Chowick would always say Gene Carr couldn't put the puck in the ocean if he was standing on the end of a pier. And that's like Jesper Fost. I mean, the kid gets so many chances to score, but he just never finishes. And I just think if you had a more skilled player, like some of these young kids, to give them the ice time, their 4th line may turn out to be a fairly productive line. The 4th lines today, right, Rob, are not like the typical 4th lines of even 5 years ago. They are more apt to be 2-way lines where they have some scoring ability to them. They're not really designed just to shut down the other team. Like the Islanders have had that 4th line with Cizikas and and Martin. I mean, and Clutterbuck, those guys score goals too. And I think they changed the whole paradigm when it came to the fourth line. They can go out and they can shut the team down, but they can also score. And I think that's where this game's heading, 4 scoring lines in the National Hockey League. And I'd like to see the Rangers utilize some of that young talent on that fourth line.
Well, Foss is the perfect target to trade. He's one of essentially 3, well, he's had 4, but the 3 main unrestricted free agents, along with Kreider and Mestikov. Foss might be the perfect guy to get to move.
Yeah.
At the deadline and get something for it, even if you're getting a pick.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to bring him back.
No, they can't. And I'm surprised the Mestikov is still with the team. The guy scored 20-some-odd goals with Tampa Bay. He's done okay with the Rangers. I mean, he does give it. He does work hard. He's got some skill. I think on a superior team, he could be productive like he was at Tampa Bay. I'm surprised they couldn't move him during the offseason if they tried. I'm assuming they tried. But I'm surprised they couldn't get a middle-round draft pick for him. I'm surprised no one made him, I'm surprised he's still in the club. I really am.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys we can say that about.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. So I'm looking for big things from Brendan Lemieux. He's coming to camp a little lighter, a little stronger. I hope I think if he plays like his dad, he would be awesome for the Rangers. The Rangers need that nasty, gritty type of player, especially now, like I said, they're very undersized. Kreider really doesn't want to take the initiative to be that type of player. So you got Lemieux. But outside of Lemieux and maybe Lindgren, who may not even start the year with the team, the Rangers really don't have anyone who's going to – and that's why I thought the Devils getting Simmons was just a brilliant move by Shiro. Shiro's done a heck of a job with that Devil team. This is not a Devils podcast, but, you look at some of the players they got now, with Hershier and you got now Hughes and you got Hall and Subban and Simmons. They're a big, strong team. They got some good goaltending. They're going to be tough too. They and the Rangers, the 2 young teams with a lot of talent. But I would say that the veteran presence on the Devils may be a little bit superior right now to what the Rangers are bringing back in the way of some of their veterans.
I know, just another team in the division getting better.
Yeah.
Philly's a question mark too. The biggest bright spot for Philly is Carter Hart.
Yes.
A young goaltender.
Yep.
Wow.
He looks outstanding. He looks like he could be a top 5 goaltender in the National Hockey League. But I think we got Georgiev. I think we've got someone who could be as good as Hart with the Flyers. And then the Islanders, you got a great coach. You got a great organization. Their management team. I think the Islanders will take a little bit of a dip this year, but I still think they'll be very competitive. Looks like San Jose did very well in the Traverse City tournament. I thought the Rangers would have done better. They came in 5th place in the Traverse City tournament, especially since now they're considered to have the best prospect pool in the National Hockey League, which I think might be a little bit of a leap. I know the Rangers have drafted some really good players, but I'm surprised they went from one of the least recognized talent pools to number 1 in 1 year. I think that might have been a little bit too much of a hyperbole there, but they came in 5th. But the Sharks, I think, won it all, so they look like they've got some pretty good talent.
Absolutely. I really hope the NHL isn't going towards a baseball model where you have just so many terrible teams. But this year in hockey, we could have some teams that are bad, that aren't. You're talking about these teams that are maintaining being good teams like the Sharks, whereas you have teams like the Kings and Senators that are, tough to watch.
Yeah, they are. Any other thoughts regarding the Rangers to start the season? I guess the season starts next week?
Thursday night, home for Winnipeg.
Week from Thursday, right? The Winnipeg Jets come to town. I think they're in for 2 games. I think they play the Rangers, and they play the Devils, I think, the following night. Yeah, the Jets are going to be an interesting team. They're one of the top teams in the league, but they've decimated the defense. And what's with Dustin Byfuglien? What's the issue there as we close out the podcast, Rob? What seems to be I haven't gotten involved in all the he said, she said, within what's going on there, but what seems to be the issue between he and the Jets?
I don't know. I don't know if it's an issue between him and the Jets. I think it might be just an issue about him. He hasn't asked to be traded. So I don't know if this is just him. This might be I don't know if it's an injury thing, his body breaking down, like an Andrew Luck situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what's going on. Why don't no one's really saying anything.
He has had injuries though last few years, right? He has been beset by injuries. very talented player when he wants to be. I know when he gives it 100%, boy, he would be somebody that I think the Rangers could really use. If it's playing Winnipeg that gets him down. I mean, those long, cold winters up in Winnipeg, you got to wonder if he played in a vibrant city like Chicago, won a cup with the Blackhawks. You got to wonder if maybe he prefers playing in the States as opposed to a Canadian team. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but yeah, we'll have to see. That's very interesting. But Winnipeg may be taking a big step back this year. That's for sure.
Well, as we're talking, the big news of the day is Justin Falk of the Hurricanes is not at practice
again.
So maybe today is the day.
He has wanted to be traded, right?
Yes, I believe so. And he has, he's a great offensive defenseman.
Yeah.
He is a UFA after this year, but he does have a modified no trade clause, making a little under $5 million a year. Or at least his cap hit is a little under $5 million a year. So, yeah, they're asking for the Hurricanes are asking for a ton for him.
Well, yeah, he's always been linked to the Rangers too. The last few years, you hear the rumors. Justin Falk would be a great fit for the Rangers, this and that, on the power play, and I don't think now would be. I don't think there's any room. You can always make room for a star player like that, but I think the Rangers want to give these kids a shot, especially with their salary cap situation. But I'm surprised because the Hurricanes had a great season last year. They really turned things around, and you hate to see an important player like Falk hold out right now because they impressed. They brought a lot of charisma to the league last year. What did Sherry call them? A bunch of jerks.
Yeah, a bunch of jerks.
They brought a little bit of flair and charisma to a league that is in desperate need of it. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of news. And Evgeny Malkin, I guess, has been in the news too a little bit with some of his antics in the preseason and the stuff that's been going on with him. Who did he have a little falling out with? Kessel?
With Kessel, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't we have don't we talk about Malkin every offseason?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's 30. He's 32, 33 now. He's
a lot of games.
He's played a lot of games. He's beat up. I don't know if he's I don't think he's the consummate team player. I don't know what sort of influence he would be in the locker room, especially all the Russian players the Rangers have. So, I don't think he would. That would be definitely a move that Sather would have made a couple of years ago, without a doubt. But I think right now, I hope we've gotten away from that stuff. I think he's a luxury. I think he's someone that might be a Malkin away from winning a cup. You bring him in for a few months and let him win a cup. But I don't think for a rebuilding team, I don't think he's the guy. At least that's my opinion. I don't think he is. But I guess he could be traded. I guess Pittsburgh could trade him.
No, he's not good. I don't think he's going anywhere.
No?
Yeah.
So
I can't. Listen, I'm wrong all the time, but I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine him going anywhere.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know if Sidney Crosby would like that too much. I think Pittsburgh might have a tough year this year. I think they might have a tough time of it. But, we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll have a better feel in the next couple of weeks. We'll see how the teams start out of the gate, who starts fast, who starts slow. I like to see the Rangers get a Tom Wilson type. I think the Rangers are a Tom Wilson type player away from really doing something really special. I know a lot of, it's all about political correctness. You watch Sam Rosen and you watch, Micheletti and those guys, and they always rail against physical. They always rail against the Tom Wilson type players. They got this holier than thou attitude. And it's a National Hockey League, right? It's hockey. It's what it is. In the playoffs, it's a mean, nasty, violent game, and it's survival of the fittest. And that's what the league has always been like since it started 100 some odd years ago. But I think that's what the Rangers need. I think if they had a player like Tom Wilson, a homegrown, organically produced player like Tom Wilson, that would set them apart. That's what they needed. One or two guys like that. Maybe Lemieux can be one of them. Maybe there's someone, that'll percolate in the minor leagues and they'll draft somebody like that. Or maybe they can get a younger version that they can maybe steal from another team. But that's what they need to protect these young kids. And I think that's what they're missing before Quinn can call this team his own. But any final thoughts, Rob?
Nope, I'm just ready to go. Of course, with this stupid NHL, after the Rangers play 2 games, we get almost a full week of no hockey from them. But that's just, and then the week after that, another 4 days with no hockey. The Rangers, the first 2 weeks of the season, the Rangers play 3 games. They don't play their they don't play their 4th game until 2 weeks after opening night. So
do you think that might be a good thing for a young team where they get more practice in though?
You could make an argument both ways. Because later in the season they're going to have some months where they have a lot of games packed in. So
right, I don't know. I would say for a veteran team that doesn't need the practice as much, maybe that would that is something that would hurt them. But I think for a young team, if Quinn can make adjustments, can make instill some practice time when he sees things in the early going. Like I said, they play very few games. I think that might lend itself to some benefit for a young team if, in fact, they keep the kids and they're not, sending them down to the AHL. Interesting point. And then later in the season, maybe having fresher legs, maybe they can withstand the rigors of a long season if they're younger as opposed to a more veteran team that might tire more easily. Interesting dynamic. We'll have to check. You're right. We'll have to see how that plays out. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't really study that early schedule. Interesting. All right, so the next show we'll focus on a player. Any thoughts on that? Anyone that you would like to see us talk about from the 60s, 70s, or 80s, or any other topic? If not the next show, maybe shortly thereafter you would like to discuss.
Well, I'd like to get some feedback from the people that listen. If there's anybody they want us to go over.
Absolutely. And Rob brings up a good point. If you folks can please let us know on our website, any topic that you want us to cover, whether it be playoff games or, different players from the 60s, 70s, 80s. We do go off the menu, as you know, every once in a while. We've been talking about some of the more current aspects of the New York Rangers lately. But, let us know what your thoughts, your feelings, some topics you want us to touch on, and we will make that happen. Well, Rob, thanks, man, for a great show. I appreciate it. We're both looking forward to a great season. It should be very competitive, as you mentioned, with the Devils, Islanders, and Rangers fighting for a playoff position this year, trying to probably come up with their own personality, their own image. It's going to be fun. It's going to I think the inner city rivalries this year are going to be something special with all the youngsters on all 3 of those teams. There's going to be, I think each team is going to bring about their own personality, their own identity. Again, folks, thanks for tuning in. On behalf of Rob Berger, this is Tom Browning for the Forgotten Hockey Players of Broadway. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening. This has been a Go Tommy Boy production.